I got to ask you, how are you going to prepare Brock Lesnar for Alistair Overeem? Because, yeah, you guys are both strikers, you and Overeem, I mean, and you guys both hit hard and you have a multitude of strikes at your disposal, but you're also built very differently. Obviously, he's much taller than you and whatever else. So how do you make it so that you can simulate Overeem's style in training?
Well, I don't. It's not necessarily me simulating Overeem style. It's me simulating striking coming at you. Now we also have big, giant, tall guys who come in and are there for Brock to drill with. But I simulate the world of striking for some strange reason. I just happen to understand punching and kicking. Now take it. I could also be the guy who smokes cigarettes who tells you, "Hey man, don't ever do this. It's terrible." Like it's like preaching to the choir, however you want to call it. Like I happen to just understand the game of striking, and I see the evolution of it, and I know how to pass it on to other people. Now take it. Maybe sometimes I can't perform it and produce it as much as I know it in my head, but I know that I'm there. I'm like a striking encyclopedia in a book, man. I can sit there and just drill with the guy all day and night. I can come up with these fabulous, like fantastic, extremely functional, like drills to do in order for his striking to grow at a really fast rate, and be functional and realistic. Now, take it. I'm the one standing across from him the majority of the time, but we'll do it with me, do the drills with me over and over again. Then they bring in some 6'5", humongous, chesty monster, and he sits there and he can eat them alive and just go through what he goes through. Like, it's not just me. I mean, it'd be ideal if I was taller, but I'm just not. I'm going to be 5'3" for the rest of my life. Like, that's just going to happen, you know what I mean? But, like, when it comes down to the striking game, and anyone who thinks that Brock Lesnar doesn't let anyone allow him to hit him, that's just they're probably the same exact people that saying, I don't know why Kane didn't just take him down and beat him on the ground. Like, that's the exact same people. I don't know why Kane didn't just take him down, man. Trust me, I'm throwing heat at this guy from every angle, every corner, every time, nonstop, every day that I'm in the gym with there. I am going for knockout blows on him. I'm throwing monster at him, and he's getting more and more accustomed to it. That's all that's happening, man. It's just what time is coming.
And Brock talked about how he was trying to get more confident in his stand-up leading into this fight, but I have to wonder, how much can he really close that gap against a guy like Overeem? I mean, I would think that, of course he wants to set up the takedown with strikes and all that, but really, he probably doesn't want to get into too many exchanges, right?
I mean, I don't think anybody wants to end up in exchanges. I don't want to end up in exchanges with anybody. Like, I don't think you would either. I mean, like, no one wants to do that. No one wants to. Why take damage? Like, why take damage if you don't have to? He doesn't want to. Now, take it. Maybe he's going to be forced to be put into a bunch of different exchanges. Who knows? I mean, Cain Velasquez might have to stand up with Junior Dos Santos for a little while because Junior won't just fall on the ground. Like, that might have to happen. That's why we're preparing for every worst-case scenario possible. At the same time, every best-case scenario. That's what people tend to not do in their training. We're working on all the possibly great things that could happen, along with all the bad things that could go on. I mean, so is he going to just get in there and just run right at him and take him down? No, it's not going to be that easy. Unfortunately, Alistair Overeem is alive and has to win and is going to do whatever it takes to make sure the fight stays where he wants it to be. Maybe Alistair will take Brock down because he wants to go to the ground. Who knows? Maybe Brock is going to high kick him unconscious. Maybe Alistair is going to shoot a fireball at him. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We're preparing for every best case and worst case scenario possible.
Yeah. So what's your take on Alistair Overeem? I mean, he's coming over from Strikeforce, and he hasn't been fighting in the UFC, and people are very divided on the subject of Overeem, and that a lot of people say, oh, he's great, and he could be the best guy in the world, and others are saying, well, he hasn't been fighting good competition, and where do you stand on that issue?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like he's definitely legitimate. Like, Alistair Overeem is not a slouch. He hasn't been fighting tomato cans. He hasn't been fighting nobodies. He won a K1 Grand Prix. That's pretty damn impressive. He's the Strikeforce heavyweight champ. He's been fighting in Pride. He's fought everywhere. The guy's all around. He's been fighting his entire life. Like, and he's humongous. He knows what he's doing. He trains every day like he's fighting. Like, I know what it's like to be out there by the Dutch. I was out there for 5 years. Like, he trained every day as a fight at practice. So he's fighting way more than his record actually shows. Is he going to come in and be the unstoppable dominant force that everybody thinks he is? Possibly. Or is he going to be like the rest of the guys who came over from Pride and from Strikeforce and got really tired in the first 2 minutes of round one? I don't know. I mean, we never know what's going to happen. It all depends on which Alistair Overeem shows up that day, not that week, not the week of the fight. It's what Alistair Overeem shows up that time when he gets in the ring and the octagon versus which Brock Lesnar shows up. I mean, maybe Brock Lesnar, the killer that he really is, who can train without getting hit by anyone and win a world title, will show up. Maybe Alistair Overeem will show up and put on the greatest performance of his life ever in that one night. But at the same time, maybe he won't. Who knows? Maybe Brock will come in and just dominate. Maybe it'll go the distance and Brock will win or lose by the close decision, or it'll end up with some strange, flying armbar by one of those two men, which would just be amazing. Like anything like that could happen. I don't know which Alistair is going to show up. The one that's been in Strikeforce, the one that's been in Pride, or maybe a largely deflated Alistair Overeem will show up. Maybe an even bigger one will show up. I don't know. I know that I can guarantee he's got to be doing everything he can to get ready for this fight. Like, you can't sleep on Brock Lesnar or Alistair Overeem. Like, you can't sleep on anybody in the fight sport nowadays. Once you get to the UFC, there's nothing higher than that. There's no level playing field higher than this when it comes to fight sports. This is the highest it goes. So I know that you can't take a nap on anybody. You've got to be at the utmost prepared at all times,